Do you want me to go to the because I'll grab some stuff for myself. They're not watching. You want me to go get you now? The parfait? You want a parfait? You want apple?
No,
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we'll reconvene this meeting. We'll go into Mr. Mancini with the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Buzzelli. Just some upcoming dates. We have teacher in service, August 18th and 19th. And the first day for students is August 20th. We do have another in-service day, a new thing we're doing, August 29th, which is the Friday before Labor Day. And that's going to be our Google Day. That's our early adopter program that the board so graciously approved. And we have a lot of teachers ready to present to the staff on Google. We have our open houses coming up. Terry, August 26th. Lincoln, August 28th. Hartman, September 2nd. And Northside, September 4th. And I also like to, one of my goals with this, the administrative staff is to be as informative as possible with the community and parents. And our administrative meeting, I encourage them to start their own Twitter. And to get Mr. Lake to start a Twitter was pretty impressive. So I put them up on the board. If anybody's interested, the goal is to post things that are happening. If they're at events, take pictures, post them, let the community see all the great things that are happening. But if you're interested, you can follow us on Twitter now. So we'll get more sides going here pretty soon. So just like to get that word out.
Mr. Mancini?
Yes.
Did you say Hartman Open House was?
September 2nd.
September 2nd. And you said August 29th was, is that a half day or in service?
August 20th is a full day in service.
Full day.
Yep. Yes.
As a parent, I've never understood why open houses are so close to the beginning of school. How does a teacher even know what's
Well,
going on?
we don't, open house is mostly, we've always had the philosophy that open house is a chance for the teacher, the parents to meet the teacher. It's not necessarily a time to have individual discussions with teachers about their students. So the amount of time that the teacher has spent with the student isn't as important. They're very encouraging setting up any kind of meeting down the road once. That open house is for the parent to come to see how the teacher runs their classroom, procedures, communication, not necessarily for, hey, I know your student already, and here's something. That's not for that dialogue. So that is down the road, and we encourage that during open house to have parents, they give their emails, and if you have problems, that comes down the road. So it's more or less for parents to meet the teacher, procedures, policies, communication. So
Thank you.
okay. That's all I have, Mr. Buzzelli.
Thank you, Mr. Mancini. We'll move on to our business portion of the meeting. We'll go into revenue and finance. Mr. Newpott.
Thank you, Mr. Buzzelli. Tonight under Revenue and Finance, number 7, General Fund Treasurer's Report. In your folder are the General Fund Treasurer's Report for June and July for the period June 1 through June 30, 2014. The summary of accounts is as follows. ESB checking, $236,722.01. PLGIT, $10,322.99. PSDLAF, $1,385.11. PA Invest, $378.56. ESB Bank Public Investment Account, $3,831,727.44. ESB Certificates of Deposit, $4,008,444.99. Total cash and investments at June 30, 2014, $8,088,981.10. for the period July 1 through July 31, 2014. The summary of accounts is as follows. ESB checking, $575,596.28. PLGIT, $10,323.23. PSDLAF, $1,385.11. PA Invest, $378.58. ESB Bank Public Investment Account, $3,182,073.08. ESB Certificates of Deposit, $4,010,228.52. Total cash and investments at July 31, 2014, $7,779,984.80. I move the treasurer's reports for June and July 2014 be approved as presented.
Second.
Second.
Mrs. Grossman, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 8, general fund accounts payable. In your folder are the general fund accounts payable checks. The first batch includes checks 106735 through 106785. 52 checks and 8 wire transfers amounting to $1,434,552.07. The second batch includes checks 106786 through 107184. 386 checks and 18 wire transfers amounting to $3,032,801.91. I move the general fund accounts payable checks be approved as presented.
Second.
Second.
Mrs. Petrelli, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 9, Capital Reserve Fund Treasurer's Report. In your folder is the Capital Reserve Fund Treasurer's Report for June and July. The total investments at June 30, 2014 were $584,453.31, with $2,649.03 in the checking account for total funds available of $587,102.34. Investments at July 31, 2014 were $509,493.57, with $20,285.28 in the checking account for total funds available of $509,778.85. I move the Capital Reserve Fund Treasurer's Reports for June and July 2014 be approved as presented.
Second.
Second.
Mrs. Petrelli, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 10, Capital Reserve Fund Accounts Payable. In your folder is the Capital Reserve Accounts Payable Report. Included are checks 1424 through 1428. 5 checks amounting to $304,829.18. I move that the Capital Reserve Fund Accounts Payable checks be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Garda, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 11, Athletic Facility Fund Expenditure. I move the administration be authorized to pay for maintenance and repair to the floors in the big and small gyms utilizing funds from the Athletic Facility Fund at an estimated cost between $5,560 and $6,000.
Second.
Second, Mr. Cortez. Any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 12, Athletic Facility Fund Accounts Payable. In your folder is the Athletic Facility Fund's Accounts Payable Report. Included is 1 check amounting to $3,133. I move that the Athletic Facility Fund Accounts Payable check be approved as presented.
Second, Mr. Cortez. Questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
I would also ask that the following reports be made part of the minutes of this evening's meeting. As of June 30, 2014, Athletic Facility Report, Helling Stadium Fund Report, Investment Earnings Report, and as of July 31, 2014, Athletic Facility Report, Helling Stadium Fund Report, Investment Earnings Report.
Did you say that they're made part of the minutes, Mr. Jerome?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Number 13, Quarterly Earned Income Tax Report. In your folder is the quarterly earned income tax report as of June 30, 2014. I move the report be approved as presented.
Second.
Second.
Mrs. Grossman, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 14, amended tax duplicate. In your folder is an amended 2014 property and per capita tax duplicate based on actual assessed values certified by the Lawrence County Assessor's Office. I move that the amended duplicate be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Garda, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 15, tax forgiveness, Mazam. Robert Mazam purchased the property at 85 Summit Avenue, Ellwood City, free and clear of taxes at a December 2013 judicial tax in Beaver County. Due to a procedural issue, Lawrence County tax claim was not made aware of the judicial sale and the tax exoneration. Therefore, I move the school real estate taxes on the property at 85 Summit Avenue be exonerated for the 2007 through 2012 years, and that the business manager be authorized to notify Lawrence County tax claim of the board's action.
Second, Mr. Cortez, any questions?
Yeah, a question on the motion.
Mr. Stevenson.
Is he keeping up with taxes 13 to 14?
Yes.
He is.
Actually, this is the second property he's purchased in Beaver County, and I went back and checked, and the board did a similar action in 2010. He is current on all those taxes, and he's current on the 2014 taxes.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 16, telephone loan ESB. In your folder is a copy of a letter of commitment, resolution, and note with regards to a loan in the amount of $100,000 that will be used to finance the telephone system that will be installed district-wide. I move the documents be approved, subject to final review and approval of the documents by bond counsel and the solicitor.
Second. Mrs. Chancera, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 17, per capita refund. Per capita tax refund requests have been received from William and Cindy Younker and Louise Benici for duplicate payments which have been confirmed by the Ellwood City tax collector. In your folder are refund calculations. I move the calculations and refunds be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Morella, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 18, National Joint Powers Alliance. In your folder is a membership agreement for participation in the National Joint Powers Alliance, a purchasing cooperative that will allow the district to participate in purchasing agreements that have been competitively bid. I move the agreement be approved as presented.
Second.
Second, Mr. Cortez. Any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
That's all under revenue and finance, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Newpower. Personnel and Education, Mr. Garda.
Thank you, Mr. Newt. In your folder are lists of substitute professional nurse, clerk, full cafeteria, and custodial personnel for the 2014-2015 school year. I move the,
You'll move nowhere.
Just start.
I think we should approve it.
Second.
Question on the motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Stevenson.
On the clerical and cafeteria substitute list, you have a woman by the name of Teresa Jones Wink. Her name is Teresa Jones Woton, W-O-J-T-O-N. The reason I know that is her husband's on the list for custodial, Larry Woton. I know both of them real well.
Thank you for clarifying that, and,
One other question, please.
go ahead.
There's a list of newbies, as we'll call them, that have been there, put on there since Monday, have they all, have all their clearances?
Does it say hold on it next to them?
Yes.
Yeah, those are the ones from the IU4, and we're waiting for the permits, so we'll hold off on them, but they'll probably come in before the, so we might need them.
What about the rest, the regular, not
If
just,
they're on that list, then
then they're okay?
Yeah.
Even on like the custodial
Yeah.
lists and those?
I have another question. When we go through Kelly, do we have to approve theirs?
I
Or
don't think,
we
no,
just
they'll take our,
Now, they're just for the teachers. Are they gonna be for the secretaries and custodians? Just for the teachers?
Any other questions? We still need a second on this motion.
Second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jen, Mrs. Grossman.
Number 20, memorandum of understanding.
I'm sorry, did we vote on that?
No.
The second was Mrs. Grossman?
Yes.
Yeah.
Any questions? Any objections? Any other questions or objections to this motion? Motion passes.
Okay, number 20, memorandum of understanding. Response to intervention facilitator / male tutor. In your folder is a memorandum of understanding between the district and the EAEA providing for the short-term hiring of 5 elementary response to intervention facilitators. I move the memorandum be approved as presented.
Second,
Second?
Mrs. Petrelli, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 21, elementary reading facilitators. The administration is recommending the following individuals as RTII, PSSA staff for 135 days during the 2014-2015 school year at a daily rate of $90. Ms. Amanda Rusnock, PSSA reading tutor, Hartman Intermediate. Mrs. Sarah Goring, PSSA math tutor, Hartman Intermediate. Ms. Tiffany Harris, PSSA reading tutor, Perry Lower Intermediate. Ms. Lauren Wilson, RTII facilitator, Northside Primary. I move the appointments be approved as presented.
Second,
Second.
Mrs. Panzera, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 22, memorandum of understanding, Ellwood City Virtual Academy. In your folder is a memorandum of understanding between the district and the EAEA providing for the continuation of the district's virtual academy. I move the memorandum be approved as presented.
Second,
Second?
Mrs. Panzera, any questions?
Comment, please.
Go ahead, Mr. Cortez.
Yes, this memorandum of understanding, as well as the one on item 21 with the RCTI tutors, represents cooperation between the Ellwood City School District and the Ellwood City Education Association. Members of our professional staff should be commended for their cooperation in promoting, doing their part to help out and promote educational assistance in our school district. And I'd like to thank them for that.
Thank you, Mr. Cortez. Any other comments? Any other questions? Motion passes.
Number 23, fall coaches. In your folder is a list of coaches submitted by the athletic director for the 2014 fall sports season. I move the list be approved as presented.
Second,
Second?
Mrs. Petrelli, any questions?
Comment, Mr. President.
Go ahead, Mr. Morello.
I'd like to say that I don't think our football program deserves over $25,000 in coaches' salaries, and I'd like to be talked about, and maybe for next year. And I'd like a roll call vote on this, please.
Roll call vote, Mr. Zarone.
Mr. Bazzelli?
Yes.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Garda?
Yes.
Mrs. Grossman?
Yes.
Mr. Morello?
No.
Mr. Newpower?
Yes.
Mrs. Panzera?
Yes.
Mrs. Petrelli?
Sorry, I didn't read all of this. I'm just gonna abstain.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Why can't I?
You have to have a
conflict of interest abstain.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just didn't realize that the sum was that much, and I just never looked at all the totals like that, so I didn't have time, and I didn't wanna make everybody wait while I sat here and did math on on everything.
I would just suggest, however, it would impact your vote, but it's gonna pass with or without your votes. If that makes a difference to you.
The vote.
Then,
You still
I
do.
know, I was still just trying to kinda quickly look at what all was there. Oh, they're not on here.
Head
The
coach
rest of them.
salaries.
Does anybody know what the head coach makes off the top of their head?
It should be 65.
I'll vote no then. Sorry, didn't realize to do that. Well, I will not be seconding that. It's a late.
Your second doesn't necessarily mean you're,
Okay.
it just,
You just second the
seconded it
motion.
so it could come to a vote,
Okay.
which doesn't obligate you to vote.
Okay.
The motion passes.
Should be noted that these are already contractual arrangements and commitments.
Through the contract.
Yeah.
Okay, number 24, resignation. Kim Kimmel has submitted her resignation effective July 14, 2014. I move the resignation be accepted.
Second. Mrs. Panzera, questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 25, superintendent severance. In your folder is a severance pay calculation as provided for in Mr. Frank Ellwood's superintendent contract. I move the calculation and payment be approved as presented.
Second. Mrs. Panzera, questions?
Call on, Mr. President.
Yes.
I stated in June that I do not believe Mr. Ellwood is entitled to his post-employment benefits due to a breach of contract. After further review of the situation, I still hold that belief. However, after speaking with several legal partners, the district will most likely be defeated in legal proceedings due to ambiguous language included in the contract that our district drafted. Therefore, from this day forward, I will hold this board responsible for drafting proper contracts without ambiguous language, so this kind of problem will never happen again. The taxpayers do not deserve ambiguous contracts. The taxpayers do not deserve for their tax dollars to be given away because of ambiguous contracts. I promise that this situation will never happen again for as long as I am on this board. And I'd like a roll call vote, please.
Thank you, Mr. Morello. Roll call, Mr. Zarone.
Mr. Cortez?
Yes.
Mr. Garda?
Yes.
Mrs. Grossman?
Yes.
Mr. Morello?
No.
Mr. Newpower?
Yes.
Mrs. Panzera?
Yes.
Ms. Petrelli?
No.
Mr. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Bazali?
Yes. Motion passes.
Mr. Bazzelli?
Yes, sir.
One question or comment. It should be noted that the ambiguous language was negotiated by members who are no longer on this board. As a matter of fact, no present member of this board was involved with that. Present members, however, have renewed that contract. And it should also be noted that the total compensation package awarded to Mr. Ellwood is a fraction of what his predecessor got. Again, no current member of this board was involved with that. And if I'm not mistaken, the board is still obligated paying that.
Yes, you're right, Mr. Cortez.
Question, Mr. Bazali.
Yes.
Mr. Vaquero, when was the contract in question drafted?
Would have been within the last,
2003, the
Well,
original one.
the original one.
Yeah.
The current contract that he just retired under.
I believe it was
February 2012.
It was renewed, yeah.
He-
It was renewed.
Drafted or renewed, Mr. Vaquero?
He had a prior contract, and that contract was renewed and extended, which led to the new contract.
Thank you.
The old contract was less involved, but what happened is because the school code changed, and in between the prior contract and this contract that's at issue, when the school code changed, it required certain things to be in the superintendent's contract. It led it to being a more detailed contract. The provision you're speaking to was a carryover from prior contract.
So sections 4.2 and 4.21 and 4.28 were drafted, when specifically?
2012.
Thank you.
But then when it was redone, forgive me, if you would readdress the contract and added the new things on superintendent's evaluation and so on, would you not have had the time then, would you not have checked it to make sure that it was verbally, I don't know what to say, so that we didn't end up with this kind of situation? I'm a little lost at words.
I guess we have a difference of opinion, because I don't think there was a situation under the contract. Every reference to year in the contract, every other provision that references a year goes by a school year. Under contract interpretation, you have to give meaning to the entire contract, to all the provisions. It would not make sense that 4 or 5 references to the term year is a school year and one reference would be a calendar year. So, and I don't know that there was as much of an ambiguity. That's where we difference in opinion. I understand what you're saying.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr. Garda, with item number 27 and 28, we're going to take an executive, so we'll leave that towards the end of our meeting.
Okay, I have to do 26, though.
Yes.
Okay, custodial shift change, I move that the 2 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. custodial shift positions at Lincoln High School be changed to 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. shift positions as authorized under Article 6, Work Schedule Section 10, scheduled shift change of the collective bargaining agreement between the district and SEIU Local 32 BJ.
Second, Mr. Morella, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Okay, number 29, FMLA leave. I move that Diane Pencil be granted a leave under the provisions of the Family Medical Leave Act for the period August 21st through November 13th, 2014. I further move that she be granted an unpaid leave, child care leave, for the period November 14th through the remainder of the 2014-2015 school year under the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement between the district and the Ellwood City Education Association.
Second,
Second.
Mrs. Petrelli, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 30, instructional assistant. I move that Ms. Alex Marini be hired as an instructional assistant for the special education department under the provisions of the collective bargaining agreement between the district and SEIU.
Second,
Second.
Mrs. Petrelli, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 31, Midwestern Intermediate for substitute shortage verification. In your folder is a substitute shortage verification form certifying the district has advertised for substitute teachers and based on current response will experience a shortage during the 2014-2015 school year. I move the form be approved as presented.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Stevenson, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 32, PAEducator.net. In your folder is an agreement with the Pennsylvania Educators Clearinghouse that outlines the responsibilities of each entity in the district's utilizations of the Clearinghouse website that was developed to accept employment applications. I move the agreement be approved as presented.
Second, Mrs. Panzera, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 33, activity sponsor, elementary intramurals. I move that an elementary intramural sponsor position be established and that it pay 4 units.
Second,
Second.
Mr. Stevenson, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Number 34, differentiated supervision plan. The district's differentiated supervision and evaluation plan for professional employees was provided at the committee meeting. I move the plan be approved as presented.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Cortez, any questions? Any objections to the motion? The motion passes.
That's all I have tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Garda. Properties and Transportation, Mrs. Pancera.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ellwood City Transit van driver monitor. In your folder is a list of Ellwood City Transit van drivers monitors for the 2014-15 school year. I move that the list be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Pizzelli, any questions?
Roll call vote, please.
Roll call, Mr. Zarone.
Mr. Garda.
Yes.
Mrs. Grossman.
Yes.
Mr. Morello.
Yes.
Mr. Newpower.
Yes.
Mrs. Pancera.
Yes.
Mrs. Petrelli.
Yes.
Mr. Stevenson.
No.
Mr. Pizzelli.
Yes.
Mr. Cortez.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Facility request. A, Lincoln High School band boosters are requesting permission to use Helen Stadium, football stadium, for their annual Pie Festival on Thursday, August 21st, from approximately 3 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. The request includes use of restrooms, concession stand, ticket booth on the home side. The blue band boosters also request the use of the visitor side concession stand for the 2014 home football game. B, Ellwood City Amateur Baseball Federation requests permission to use Friedhoff Field and Sanders Field from August 1st through October 19th, 2014, for minor and little league fall ball. Games are Saturday and Sunday afternoon. C, Ellwood City Community Enrichment, a subsidiary of Ellwood City Chamber of Commerce, is organizing a storytelling festival Sunday, September 20th, 2014, from 4 to 7:30 p.m. in Ewing Park. They requested the use of the Lincoln High School gym and restrooms in case of inclement weather. I move that the request be approved as presented.
Second, Mr. Cortez, any questions? Mr. Newpower.
Point of clarification on letter B, the Ellwood City Amateur Baseball Federation is requesting Friedhoff Field and Sanders Field, and it's also for Pony League Baseball on Sanders Field. Little League is on Friedhoff Field. It's written a little bit incorrectly.
Thank you, Mr. Newpower.
Mr. President, I need to add another facility request.
Okay.
The Ellwood City Lions requested to collect donations on September 26th outside the stadium for their annual white cane program.
Thank you, Mrs. Pancera.
Second.
I'll second that again, Mr. Cortez. Any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Diesel fuel unleaded gasoline. In your folder is a summary of the pricing received for the purchase of diesel fuel for the 2014-15 school year through the Western Pennsylvania Gasoline Diesel Fuel Consortium. I move that the pricing be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Newpower, any questions? Any objections to the motion? The motion passes.
Field quantity changes. In your folder are field quantity change acknowledgements for the repair of 80 feet by 50 brick concourses at a cost of $12,264, and 2 changes to the wood trim and panel replacement at the bell tower at cost of $2,050.12 and $1,763. I move that the field quantity changes be approved as presented.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Cortez, any questions? Any objections to the motion? The motion passes.
Change orders, Lincoln High project. In your folder are the following change orders. G1, labor and material to associated with rebuilding the Lincoln chimney at $8,784. Labor and materials necessary to stabilize vertical cracks in the brick masonry at $1,628. R1, delete alternative R2A, replace shingle roof area, less restocking charge, deduct $8,837. I move that the change orders be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Stevenson, any questions? Any objections to the motion? The motion passes.
Architectural Engineering Design Service Proposal. In your folder is a proposal to provide professional architectural and engineering design services for the lintel repair of the large windows located in the small gym. I move the proposal at a cost not to exceed $4,800 be accepted and approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Cortez, any questions?
I have a question.
Yes, Mrs. Fitzgerald.
Did we get any more information on that?
No, the cost, the total cost to do the work, no. I waited until late today, but I believe that the problem was that the contractor was having trouble getting the steel prices from his vendor. So I tried to write a motion, the next motion kind of says that we can move forward after making the board informed and after polling the board. As soon as I have that information, it will be sent out to you.
Thank you. That's all.
Any other questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Lintel repair change order. In your folder is a report on the condition of 4 steel lintel beams above the west side windows of the small gym. I move the administration be authorized to proceed with the lintel repair project, subject to informing and receiving authorization from the majority of the board. I further move that a change order be submitted at the September meeting for final approval.
Second. Mr. Cortez, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Security services. In your folder is an agreement with Capital Asset Protection Incorporated to provide 16 hours of Saturday security service and Sunday service as needed at an hourly rate of $15.60. I move that the agreement be approved as pending final approval by the solicitor.
Second.
Second.
Mrs. Petrelli, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Replacement phone system. In your folder is a summary of the telephone proposals submitted by the Accent and Advent Communications. I move that the contract for the new system be awarded to Advent Communication of Washington, PA, at a cost of $99,912.58. I further move that the administration be authorized to enter into a maintenance agreement for years 2 through 5 at a monthly cost of $200.
Second. Mr. Garda, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mrs. Panzera. Student Affairs and Athletics, Mr. Cortez.
Thank you, Mr. President. 44, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA. In your folder is an annual notice to parents and eligible students on FERPA rights and state board policies for the 2014-15 school year. I move the notice be approved as presented.
Second. Mrs. Panzera, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
45, Statement of Non-Discrimination. In your folder is a statement of non-discrimination for the 2014 school year, 2014-15 school year, I'm sorry. I move the statement be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Newpower, questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
46, Glade Run Lutheran Service Agreement. In your folder is an agreement with Glade Run Lutheran Services that outlines the roles and responsibilities of each entity in providing educational services to students referred to Glade Run by the district at a cost ranging from $21,320 to $34,752. I move the agreement be approved as presented.
Second. Mrs. Panzera, any questions? I have one question, Mr. Mancini. Where exactly is Glade Run? Zillionople? Okay, that was for my information. Any other questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
47, Human Service Center. In your folder is an agreement with Human Services for elementary mental health service for the 2014-15 school year at a cost of $5,300. I move the agreement be approved as presented.
Second.
Second.
Mr. Stevenson, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
48, Beaver Valley IU English as a Second Language Agreement. In your folder is an agreement with the Beaver Valley Intermediate Unit to provide English as a second language services for the 2014-2015 school year at an estimated cost of $54,252. I move the agreement be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Bizzelli, any questions?
Yes, I have one.
Go ahead, Mr.
I
Stevens.
guess I'll ask Mr. Mancini and Ms. Lynn. Do we have a lot of students that,
It varies, we, 7 or 8, typically 6 last year. We don't, I think the most we've ever had is maybe 11 or 12. They move in and out, and, you gotta provide those services, so we test them when they get.
okay, there it is.
So, I think there's 8 this year.
Were they mostly elementary?
Yeah, typically, once in a while, by the time they get to the high school, they've tested out, so they're no longer requiring services or very limited services. But a lot of the more intensive is in the younger grades,
Okay.
We pay the one price, or do we pay per child?
per child per hour. And like I said, some children require more time, so they cost more, some require, they have different levels that they reach, bridging, and then they test out usually as they get older.
It's on the back of one. It's looking as fast as it's reading.
Any other questions?
It's the back of it.
Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
49, revised policy for adoption. Revised policy number 217 was submitted for board review at the June meeting. I move the policy be approved as presented and incorporated into the minutes of this evening's meeting.
Second. Mrs. Panzera, any questions?
Which policy is this?
217.
It's been posted, it's a graduation one, already stated,
Graduation.
yes.
Okay, that's all I needed to hear,
Yep.
thank you, yes.
Any other questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
50, Keystone Smiles AmeriCorps. In your folder is an agreement with Keystone Smiles AmeriCorps that provides guidelines, roles, responsibilities for the AmeriCorps Workers Program. I move the agreement be approved as presented.
Second.
Second?
Mrs. Petrelli, questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
51, FitnessGram Web Hosting Agreement. In your folder is a web hosting agreement with Cooper Institute to provide web hosting for FitnessGram application. I move the agreement be approved as presented.
Second. Mrs. Panzera, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
52, tuition student. I move that Tyler Knox be accepted as a tuition student at Hartman Intermediate School for the 2014-15 school year.
Second. Mr. Morella, questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
53, athletic expense report. In your folder are the athletic fund treasurer's report for June and July 2014 that reflect total expenses of $6,458.82 and $20,285.30 respectively. I move the athletic expense report be approved as presented.
Second. Mr. Bizzelli, any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
54, activity fund quarterly report. In your folder is a quarterly activity report that reflects a balance of $68,624.30 as of June 30th, 2014. I move the quarterly activity report be approved as presented.
Second, Mrs. Panzera, any questions?
Question.
Go ahead, Mr. Stevenson.
How did the history club have $18,000 in their club balance?
Fundraisers, fees that they charge, I can look into that. I can find out for you.
Yeah, I mean, yes. My thinking says if they can raise that kind of money, let's put them to work for the school district.
They just brought that in according to this, from April to June, $9,000.
Unless maybe, did they have a booth over at the festival or something?
I'll find out. It may not be till school starts with Mr. Buffington, so I'll get it to you. Everybody's.
Thanks, Mr. Mancini. Any other questions? Any objections to the motion?
Is that with the rest of them?
At the very last, it's the next to the last page of that big bunch, it's the next to the last page.
Oh, okay.
Is there any other
Oh, okay. Got it.
objections to this motion?
No.
Motion passes. Go on, Mr. Cortez.
That's all I have tonight, Mr. President.
Thank you,
Student
Mr.
affairs and
Cortez.
athletics.
Recognition and communication, Mr. Stevenson.
Yes, I have a couple. First, for both of these that I'm gonna read reflect well on our professional staff. So you guys are gonna appreciate this. Maybe some of you will appreciate it more than others, but. First one is from Mr. Mancini. Mrs. Christine Bluedorn has been presented with a certificate of recognition from the PA School Counselors Association for being acknowledged by a student in the inaugural PA School Counselor Association Student Essay Scholarship Competition as a school counselor extraordinaire who profoundly impacted his or her academic career and their personal social development. So that's kind of nice. Okay, following Ellwood City area teachers applied for and received NALCO Ecolab Foundation Visions for Learning Grant. This is a program where NALCO makes certain scholarships, or not scholarships, but grants available for. D. Rucker got $2,000 for the Art Smart curriculum. Carol Woody in the 3rd grade got $730 for the social studies level nonfiction readers. Jackie Sturgeon got 3rd grade, $734 for social studies level nonfiction readers. Leslie Milsick, 3rd grade, got $734 for social studies level nonfiction readers. Matt Scotchless in elementary technology got $2,394 for the program Computer Programming Using the Finch. I'm not sure if he means the bird, the finch, or Seth Rosenberger, 3rd grade, got $2,983 for 3rd grade interactive science lab. Sherry Shear in the 4th grade got $1,428 for intervention for reading mastery program. Megan Birdie in the 3rd grade got $2,000 for a remedial reading program. Christine Costa, elementary Title I, got $1,170 for Reading Intervention Resource Center. Now Donna DeMace, who's the elementary librarian, got $2,100 for PA Core Upgrade Library Book Acquisition Services for non-fiction titles from Junior Library. And Lori Hudak and Jody Christoph in secondary English and Science got $3,000 for news ELA comm school license. Dina Noble in the secondary math program got $2,100 from Texas Instruments Inspire CXCAS handheld graphing calculator. And finally, Aaron Parkinson, our secondary librarian, got $2,200 for At the Core Library Partnerships Program. Now, total amount of all the grants, ready for this? $23,577. It's a great accomplishment for our district and the teachers who took the initiative to try new educational programs in their classes. The teachers will be given their certificates at the opening day in service to be honored in front of their peers. The district wants to thank NALCO and the Ecolab Foundation Visions for Learning Grant Program. I think, give that again.
I got it.
Oh, you got it? Okay. Yeah, I just think that's, thank you guys. All of you. I have nothing further.
Thank you, Mr. Stevenson. New business.
I have some, Mr. President.
Go ahead.
Facility use Sanders Field. Jeff Boda has requested the use of Sanders Field Wednesday evenings from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. and Saturday for the period of August 15th through November 15th for participation in fall baseball program.
Second. Mr. Cortez, any questions? Any objections to the motion? The motion passes.
Northside cafeteria tables. In your folder is a proposal from PEM Company to replace the cafeteria tables at North Side Primary School at a cost of $17,249. I move the proposal be accepted as presented.
Second.
Second, Mr. Cortez. Any questions? Any objections to the motion? The motion passes.
PSBA voting delegate, in your folder is certification of voting delegates form for the PSBA Delegate Assembly to be held on October 21st, 2014. I move that Renee Petrelli, if interested, be appointed as the district's voting delegate.
Second, Mr. Morella. Any questions? Any objections to the motion? Motion passes.
Audit, attached is a copy of the audit review notes from the meeting. What all do you want?
Just what was, that's just information.
Yeah, but where's the, I don't have the actual motion.
There is no
That's just
motion.
information.
So do we accept the,
You don't have to do anything else.
oh, it's just
That's just,
informational?
yeah, information.
Okay, never mind. That's all I have, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Panzera. Any other new business?
57.
They did, they just did that.
Yeah, I go to sleep like.
I hope not.
Good report, good.
Yes.
Any other new business? All right, we'll go back to our visitors.
Nothing. We still have these two.
We'll start back up front. Anybody have any comments, questions?
First off, I just want to thank the members of the board this evening for being receptive to having us here this evening. I also want to say that our goal in the EAEA is to work with the board, the administration, to create the best education for the students of the Ellwood City Area School District. With that being said, I'd like to ask the board, has there been any change in the position on kindergarten being reduced to a half day, the closing of Perry School, reduction of graduation requirements? Has there been any change or anything in that nature since the last time we met?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Deloy. Any other questions from the visitors? Okay, if there's no other questions, we're gonna go back to an executive adjournment for items number 27 and 28, which is the head basketball coach and assistant principal.
I have a question for them.
Go ahead.
Does any of you, you know it's been under discussion with the half-day kindergarten, of course, and Perry. Would anybody like to say their opinions for us? To hear as a board, you guys are our professionals.
Now's your time.
Yep. You're here, make it count.
We actually would like to present something to you on the whole deal next month, if you can wait until then. I think that's the best time to do it. If that's okay with you, again, we really want to work with the board, with the administration on the decision-making process. We want to explore all viewpoints on these very important educational considerations right now. I hate just to sporadically spurt stuff off, and then
Right.
I'd really rather it be put together as we would like it to be, if that's okay with everybody.
May I say this? Keep in mind, any of those three items that you brought up, there isn't anybody sitting here at this table that wants to do them. Nobody, me included. But we've had to make some tough decisions, and you know we have. But certainly, if you've got a plan, or got something in mind, or have something we can work with
Well,
to keep from doing it,
we have our viewpoints that we want to share with you. We appreciate the opportunities to be invited to be on the committees. Mr. Keeley has constructed a committee for the closing of Perry School. And again, I asked for the teachers to have input on this decision-making process, and I thank you so much for including us and allowing that to take place. We have our viewpoints, maybe some other possible solutions to be considered.
that's,
We will highly consider it.
yes,
Okay, wonderful.
we'll be looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Mrs. Deloya?
Yes.
Mr. Mancini will coordinate with you on these issues,
Okay,
okay?
sounds great, thank
All
you.
right, thanks a lot.
If we need to meet earlier too, we can, you know, that's, if we have to meet earlier before the meeting next week, next month or whatever, just let us know. Yeah.
We should be out by
Okay, we're gonna
midnight.
adjourn, we're gonna go into executive session, and then we'll reconvene right after that again. So if you could step outside while we go into executive, and we'll,
Yeah, I don't know.